his flair for the dramatic. He boldly appointed an outspoken attorney, Eleanor Holmes Norton, to be the city's first black female human rights commissioner.
Well, just think about it. Any mayor who would appoint a human rights commissioner with an afro that big, it's got to be wide open to change.
The second term was not without its bumps and bruises, as when Lindsay ordered flags flown at half-mast to honor the war protesters who'd been killed at Kent State.
And a few days later, the construction workers had a rally around City Hall. They invaded City Hall, put the flag back up to full mast, then Sid went up and put it back down to half-mast.
And which caused them to
really riot.
Meanwhile, New York City's finances, unstable when Lindsay took office, were sagging under the weight of increased spending on city salaries, education, welfare, and other social programs.
There was not a way that New York City could have taken on the massive social goals and programs that Lindsay wanted to take on and meet them with its own resources.
Actually started with Robert Wagner in this last year, and what started with Robert Wagner in his last year was to borrow money to pay for current operating expenses and not pay it back at the end of the year, but instead to roll it over and say to the bank, we'll pay you next year.
For this fiscal year, well, it's quite grim. For the first time since I've been mayor, we are in imbalance at the moment. It's conceivable we'd have to go to the banks to get through the year. It would be terrible if we had to do that, because it just compounds the problem for the next fiscal year.
Whatever the local fiscal issues, in August 1971, New York City's mayor was back on the national stage with a headline-making announcement.
This morning at Gracie Mansion, Mrs. Lindsay and I enrolled in the Democratic Party. In a sense, this step recognizes the failure of 20 years in progressive Republican politics. Whether this means I'll run for president, I do not know. But it does mean that I am firmly committed to take an active part in 1972 to bring about new national leadership.
I think that Mayor Lindsay, seeing the credit he was getting for saving New York from disaster when his counterparts had not, may have read that in the context of the early 1970s as meaning New York had found a mayor that could survive these troubled, racially volatile times. Perhaps that's the kind of president we need.
By the end of 1971, Lindsay's hat was in the ring. Some pundits rolled their eyes. Some New York voters wanted their money back.
Well, you son of a bitch, you didn't mean any of that. You were just coming out so you could run for president on my back again, just as you did the first term. You tried to give us this story that you wanted to keep our streets clean and our schools safe. No, you didn't. You were just looking to get into office again, and then you spend a year kind of playing nice, and then bingo, you're gone out on a national stage again.
Why do you fill me up, buttercup, baby, just to let me down, and let me around.
1972, the Florida primary. John Lindsay's only declared opponent was the former Alabama governor, George Wallace.
perfect counterpoint. George Wallace on the right, the guy who wanted to stop integration. John Lindsay, the urban city mayor, on the left, having that debate.
Why is George Wallace afraid to debate me in Florida? Maybe he doesn't want to explain why he supported the war in Vietnam while I spoke out against it 8 years ago. Maybe he doesn't want you to remember his pandering to racial fears, his attempts to divide Americans from each other. Maybe he doesn't want to give Florida the chance to judge for itself who deserves your vote. It's easy to stand up to children on their way to school. I'm challenging George Wallace to debate me face to face, man to man.
All the other Democratic candidates were afraid to take on Wallace.
I didn't say he wasn't courageous.
Lindsay was the only one with the courage
We
to
actually
do it.
went into his fundraisers with chickens. So, and released the chickens, said it was chickens at debate.
You went into a Wallace rally, you dressed some young kid in a full chicken outfit.
That's
with a
after the
sign
chickens
saying,
died.
Wallace's chicken to debate Lincoln.
That's after the chickens died. We couldn't use any more chickens.
Wallace refused Lindsay's challenge to debate. Meanwhile, some said New York's mayor was his own worst enemy.
Lindsay's biggest problem, and neither he nor those closest to his advisors closest to him anticipated this, is that Lindsay's reputation followed him.
Now, we thought going to Miami we'd see all the New Yorkers. The problem is New Yorkers that are there didn't want to see Lindsay.
He ran into people following him around, saying, you know, what are you doing out here? Trying to be president.
The moment I knew he didn't have a chance, we were driving in a bus somewhere. We got off to eat at a diner in the middle of Florida. He walks in the diner, common folk, if you will. They all rush over and say, oh, can I have your autograph? I saw you in Johnny Carson. I saw you in the cover of Time magazine. When he left, I stayed behind. I said, you going to vote for him? They said, what, are you crazy? I'm going to vote for Wallace.
Lindsay's run was over within weeks. Nixon was reelected. The following year, John Lindsay completed his final term as mayor.